showing up. Appreciate your time. Myself, I'm Jonathan Browning. My lovely wife, Sarah, is right here in front of me. I couldn't make this happen without her support. So I want to thank her first for anything. So thank you very much. I am a resident of Cherokee County since 2016. I came here with the dream of raising a family in a small community that I once knew. My wife and I grew up in Alpharetta. We went to Milton High School together, the old Milton High School where the log cabin was. We always thought of Alpharetta, Birmingham as the bubble of farming communities. We went to ride horses, ride four-wheelers, off-roading, trespass on people's properties, to off-road. We did all of that. Growing up now as my family, I want to share that same relationship that I have with them. I have two wonderful children, Joseph and Natalie, 13 and 11. They both go to Creekview Middle School. Creekview Middle School. My idea is to save or create that community and maintain that community that I had growing up, which is free home in Ball Ground, Molesca, Hickory Flat. The 2 acres or larger prevent any kind of growth from growing, impeding those districts. We can use Hickory Flat for a great example. In the past 10 years, the population has tripled. I provided some information, some stats here, if anyone wants to look at them, some Google Maps as well, showing aerials of 5-year progress of the growth every 5 years. My idea is you can't stop growth or prevent growth, but you can maintain it and manage it for respect out of adjacent citizens. So if you have a 100-acre farm and there's a bunch of 2-acre residents around it, that large farm or developer should appreciate the community that was presented to them. You shouldn't bring R40, R30, R20 homes within that. All it does is bring down the adjacent property values. So my idea was to maintain the same property zoning that surrounds it. Additionally, commercial, residential should not impede to each other. Commercial should stay along congested areas where the infrastructure belongs, highways, roads, close to city limits. Anything that impedes our cultural life will, excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not a politician, so excuse me.
That's a good thing.
I'm not a politician, so I mean, all I can say is ask me the questions. I'm better at answering them than speaking. I got information here. I'm better at answering questions than creating questions. So please feel free to ask me any questions. I can go from there.
Can you go back and get the question?
Yes.
Tell us about your history.
Okay, so as mentioned, my wife and I grew up in Alpharetta. She went to Georgia Southern. I went to Valdosta State and transferred to Southern Poly, graduate construction management. So I've seen construction from start to finish, the permitting, zoning, the bending over backwards to get something approved. I've been to multiple hearings, rezonings, anything to produce a project for the developer as well as purchaser trying to obtain that. So I met Michael here numerous times in the past. I became a great friend. I've seen construction expand its limits where it should be. Once you start, what you give an inch, they're going to take a foot. Take a foot is going to take a mile. Anytime you see a new rezoning sign coming up, there's going to be always a little bit more than that one project. There's always going to be another one after that. So I want to prevent those small stones being thrown at our residents for the change in the dynamic and future growth, especially for tax revenue. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Mine, I don't know, mine's not necessarily a question, but I probably have a few more years than several of you. I grew up in Sandy Springs. I graduated from North Springs High School. Sandy Springs was somewhat of a decent place to live. Then the Fulton County Commission did what the Fulton County Commission did, and it's a mess. I'm also looking at Woodstock and what's happening at Woodstock, and I'm greatly concerned about that. And I really don't want this to occur in Canton and the surrounding areas. So that is a great stepping point to say, you know, what is commercial needs to be commercial, and what is residential needs to remain residential, and don't start doing, I've seen this happen multiple times, they come in and do a spot zoning, and it spreads like a cancer. And generally, I have watched over the years all these things take place, and I'm thoroughly concerned about it. At my point, I'm gonna get hit by the beer truck at some point, but my children and my grandchildren, I want them to grow up in a decent environment. So, carry on.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to hit on. So, every major intersection doesn't need commercial shopping. You look at East Cherokee and Union Hill Road, over in Hickory Flat. 10 years ago, there was, just because there's a lot of congestion and volume, you don't have to put a Kroger or a Chick-fil-A there. People can drive those extra 10 or 15 minutes to that location. So look at Holly Springs, for example. Holly Springs is impeded to Hickory Flat in a short 8 to 10 years.
Right.
Okay, it all started by that intersection right there. They built the Tractor Supply there, Publix, then it expanded to the Chick-fil-A. We all know there's valuable land out there, and there's a lot of families out there who own a lot of this land. A lot want to sell out because they know they're sitting on a cash cow. We, the residents, are stuck with the outcome of it. So whoever sells it, they're not living in that community anymore. They're picking up, leaving, going somewhere else. It's we, the community, that sits there, has to deal with the product. Outsiders are coming in who don't have our same values. They're looking there just to get a house, closer to Kroger, closer to Publix, but they're not thinking about the outcome that it does to our schools, congestion, the evaluation of our adjacent homes that has already been there, that we've built this community for. So growth not only affects us, it also affects the community of our schools. Our schools are already at 75% capacity. Okay, we're one neighborhood away from most every school district from being overloaded. So if you look at Ball Ground, for example, they want to put 600 or 700 homes over 1,000 acres. So each one of those homes have 1 or 2 residents. That's 600 additional students. Freeholm Elementary here was built to handle 1,200 students. Right now, they're capacity around 300. So utilize that school. You're 2 neighborhoods away from that busting at the seams, and then over competing to Ball Ground or Macedonia or Avery. You're going to see red line district changes. Schools going to be divided up. This may not be Creekland anymore. You're going to see Ball Ground be zoned to Creekland instead of Creekview. You're going to see a lot of changes with this additional population. We all come here for the school district. We all come here to be next to that house. But that new neighbor that comes in there changes the dynamic and just pushes us further away. I'm getting tired of being pushed away. I'm sure you're getting tired of being pushed away. I want to prevent those outside entities from pushing us away.
Well, in further information, we moved to Cherokee County in '99. We lived in Smyrna, and we were being forced out. And we came up here to be in the sort of halfway rural, halfway suburban environment. And the country life lasted about 6 months, and then everybody started moving in. And that's perfectly fine. That's great. It just, well, I'll go back to something I was going to say earlier, which is based on recent county commission votes. It's amazing. My father taught me a good one, which is no one screams until their ox is gored. The people who are making these decisions are, I have to clean up my language, are really messing with the Hickory Flat area and that area where the elementary school is, and they don't have anything to do directly with it. And I'm really concerned about that, and the fact that you are making your points is greatly appreciated, and whatever we can do needs to be pushed.
Right. I'm the outsider coming in. I don't have 4 or 5 generations of Cherokee County. I don't have political connections of any one of the bluffs. I'm just an outsider. Hey, this outsider's coming in and trying to change Cherokee County. I'm not. I'm trying to maintain Cherokee County.
Good, because our last commissioners do.
So
They're very connected.
I don't have any deep pockets with anybody. I don't have anyone on the Hill related to me. All I have is my 3 acres on Wyatt Road. Okay, that's all I have. So I have no influence. I can't be bought. I'm not gonna gain anything out of this. My family's not gonna inherit $3 million for 60 acres, you know? I'm the one stuck with it, the surrounding area. You're the one stuck with it in the surrounding area. We are held to a higher standard. You know, when you built your house, you had to impede these 50-foot setbacks. You had to have this type of square footage in your house you had this type of septic build. Say an R20 comes right beside you, they have the 5-foot setbacks. Well, you can't do anything because your zone are agricultural. You still have your 50-foot setbacks. You can't impede to their property, but they can impede 5 feet to your property line. That's not the same, you know? So, as I mentioned, you can't stop growth, but I can voice my opinion where you can make amendments and changes, you know? If you have zoning ag around it, and God forbid R40 gets approved, the perimeter outline lots adjoining to the ag have to have the same stipulations touching your property. So if it's R40 with 15-foot setbacks, no, it has to be 50-foot setbacks on R40. If that equates to smaller homes, so be it. I want to protect the adjacent existing homes. That's my priority.
Carry on.
Okay. Same thing, you know, so if it's R40 or R30, same thing. R30 needs to meet the perimeter of R40. You can make smaller lots on the inside, so be it, to protect the perimeter existing homes. Yes?
What I've noticed when I've spoken to county commissioners in the past, and I've sat across from them in meetings, face to face at their office, is they always seem to serve one constituency. So can you speak to these 4 constituents right here? Right now, when these kids graduate college, they can't live in Cherokee County. There isn't an entry-level job where they could basically barely afford a rent unless it's Section 8 housing or something like that in Canton.
Right.
So so one county commissioner will say, well, I want all 2-acre lots. Well, I hate to tell you, but values being what they are, that X's out anyone under 35. You know, except for very, very, very few people. So as a commissioner, will you be open to exploring opportunities for young folks or people who are older, who now have a reduced income, to actually be able to afford to live in this county? I don't want everyone to look the same here.
Right.
I don't want them all to be the same age.
Right.
I don't want all the kids to have to drive from who knows where to work here. Basically, can a firefighter afford to live here right now? I'm not sure they can.
But I respect that, and I agree with you 100%. Cherokee County is an expensive county to live in. It is. The planning committee plans our future for what's local zoning from here and there. All we can do is adhere to it or change it based on that. Not everybody has to have a 4,000 square foot home on 2 acres, you know? Literally, the industry for me on, what's that road called? Off of Club Scott? Smithwick, on Smithwick, a 2-acre lot, they put a trailer there. I mean, you don't have to live in an expensive mansion home. That 2-acre lot's over $100,000, you put a $50,000 trailer on it. You don't have to have the best of everything, you know? You have to earn it, obtain it, build for it. Now these developers, you'll buy the price per acre. Yes, the price per acre changes, but they're there to maximize the price per acre. Okay, whether you put 4 or 5 units on a dwelling on an acre. You can build, we all know the price per square foot for a home, roughly $150 a square foot per home. So you build a 1,500 square foot home, you're looking at $220,000. These developers are buying the property, say 50, 100 acres at $25,000 to $50,000 an acre. Okay, by the time you develop sewer, city plumbing, water, you're probably looking around $75,000 to $80,000 an acre. So it's doable to get close to a $300,000 home, which around the national average is right now in Cherokee County, without expanding, busting at the seams to meet tax revenue, condensed housing. It's doable. There's also different areas too. You get close, there's Woodstock, there's parts of Ackworth, there's parts of Ball Ground and Waleska. They're affordable. They may not be the ideal next to your parents, which is hard. Everybody wants to live next to their parents. but you have to build.
Well, the question is, would you choose to live?
I
in
am
this
correct in
or
the
would
fact
you
that the
either
planning
feel
and
like
zoning voted our
great
thing
place to
down,
live,
didn't they?
and leave
They
affordable?
didn't vote it 3 to 2
We
down?
look at
they
that.
Planning
denied
and
it.
zoning.
They
Everywhere.
denied it,
You look at
yes.
Atlanta
Yeah,
as a great example.
they
with
voted
the
it down,
pencil factory.
but it went on to the commissioners anyway.
20 years ago, you didn't want to be walking around there. But now, flash forward to today, average home there is $700,000-800,000 due to gentrification. So it takes an individual to invest in the community to build it, you know? So it's not gonna happen overnight, but it takes the individual to take that risk to buy a home, you know? This area here, 20 years ago, wasn't expensive as it was. We as individuals bought out here when the land was cheaper and built it up, and properties increased dramatically. Same thing with Ball Ground, same thing with Leska. Everything starts as a community and build it up. Hell, 20 years from now, this might not be a nice community. We don't know that. The way it's going right now, this is gonna be another Alpharetta, Roswell corporate area. People are gonna leave and the dynamic's gonna change. All I wanna do is maintain it. It's what we can have, so our future can build into it. Now, you might have a house, every house is torn down nowadays. If it's only 15, 20 years old, they tear it down. I can't prevent that, you can't stop that, but I wanna make it where anybody can buy a house. And I cannot dictate the price of the land, I cannot dictate what the plan bill has done in the past. All I can do is approve or disapprove what the future holds. So, apartment complex, they're trying to put apartment complexes in this area. I think I speak for the community, nobody wants an apartment complex in this area. Keep it closer to Canton, the I-75 corridor, and work its way out, not work its way out. So, I don't know if that answered your question or not, but it's gonna,
No, I'm just asking if you're going to look at all your possible.
I'll look at all my
constituents,
possibilities, you know?
Not just one.
Not just one. I mean, I understand there's growth and there's right growth. There's areas that already have condensed housing zoning. If they're surrounded by condensed house zoning, maintain it, expand it. I don't wanna take condensed house zoning that's out in the middle of rural Cons Creek area and create a new pocket there just to push out. You know, if that answers your question. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna follow up on Paul's question. It has been a difficult, process for example, the sheriff and the various city police and so forth to be able to have housing for teachers, affordable within the county because people are having to drive long distance for good jobs, but the cost of living. Is there any consideration being given, I've heard other commissioners speak, is there any consideration being given to some kind of possibly stipend or assistance, for example, the really critical teachers, fire, medical, police, that kind of thing, that could maybe offset this cost of growth here, because this is a very expensive place.
I don't think any commissioner has the power to do that. If they're telling they can, they can't. It has to be addressed from the senator or House legislation or the governor. That can't be done at a local level. Say, if anyone tells you can't be done.
Well, I wanted to find out what you had to say, because there's gotta be a solution to get some of these people close. We're not gonna be able to get quality people at some point.
Right.
And just as an aside to that, my son-in-law, my daughter and son-in-law live in Habersham County. My son-in-law is a firefighter with DeKalb County. He drives 50-something miles each day down there and back. And he's made that choice, and he's done it for himself. But I share the concern is that you're not gonna be able to get quality people in here to do fire and police and sheriff's operations and things of that nature. So that's something to be considered, but I think it is, back to the military, that's above your pay grade.
Right.
But obviously it needs to be discussed.
It needs to be discussed. I agree with that 100%. We've got our teachers, our firemen, a police officer, but it's not a community. I mean, it's the building we're in right now. I mean, we're utilizing our community space.
Right.
So, But I cannot individually create those stipends or grants on that level. All I can do is protect what we have in place right now. So I'm an advocate for growth, but responsible growth. I'm not saying stop it or put a dead end on it, it just needs the right growth in the right place.
So this is more for everybody sitting here, and not so much for you. We're Avery kids. I'm involved in PTA at Avery. We meet with Dr. Davis regularly. And you talk about teachers not being able to afford places around here. It's because our teachers get paid less than any surrounding county. Everybody that voted for the school board to not get the money this past time and then complained when they wanted to pull that back, that's what goes into these teacher salaries. They have cut, she told us the other day, they have found $8 million in cuts that they can take, and the teachers are still going to be paid less than surrounding counties. So think about that when you vote for different things. Voting to take money away from the school system hurts our teachers. It hurts our kids because it doesn't put quality teachers in here. They can't afford to pay them what other districts are making. So yes, we can find ways to make housing affordable, but it goes deeper than that. It's not just the housing. They need to be paid more, and that vote was disappointingly passed. And that's something that everybody needs to seriously think about.
Right, well,
Thank
you have to bear that in mind when you, next time you vote for the school board.
Exactly.
Who are these individuals?
Well, if I may chime in, the reason that we're in a deficiency is because the last 4 years, all of this surplus of tax money, the school board chose to pay off debt instead of paying our teachers. So that was 4 years of this big, huge boom of all this extra tax money. My taxes have gone up 40% every single year. And after that huge multi-million-dollar surplus, they took and put into paying for the different schools instead of investing it into the current schools and our teachers.
And I will
So
say,
I hear that, but it's to back up what your point is. It's the same thing in the school board, it's what's happening with our commissioners. So the commissioners need an overhaul as well. The school board needed an overhaul because they're mismanaging funds. They're
And the
all
schools
about
are changing.
growth and
It's
growth
going in the right
and
direction.
growth. And the more growth that we have, the higher our taxes go. And it makes it, because then all of our property values go up, and it makes it hard for the police to get jobs, or excuse me, to get housing. So anyway, sorry, I just had to follow up with that. Just that they're tied very much together. I'm seeing the same thing that happened with the school board, the same thing happening with the commissioners. Seems like all of our elected officials don't listen to the community. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, the irony is I just spent all day with two teachers, young teachers, looking for a place. We looked at a house, off of Conch Creek, and we looked at a house in Marble Hill, which is outside of Cherokee County, obviously. But here's the deal. USDA offers loans at hardly any amount down. If you're a USDA, Cherokee County's lost all of that. You have to go to Pickens, you have to go to other counties to be able to find those USDA properties that are in that zoning. The other thing is, there is a program that is called Good Neighbor Next Door. I think Georgia had it for a while, may have gotten it back, that actually helped with down payments and stuff for teachers, firefighters, and emergency responders. So there are programs out there, they're not widely advertised, but there are programs out there for these individuals that probably need to be expanded on. And but the properties we looked at, guess what property, we weren't looking for, they can afford a townhouse in Ball Ground. Those high density housing, they want $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 for those. What they could afford was a double wide on 2 acres. They can get 2 acres, and they can get a double wide fairly decent on 2 acres in a different county. We don't have that anymore. It's gone. What do we get here? You get crammed and jammed for $600,000, and some of these houses are almost $400 a square foot. If you do it, they're 1,200 square feet. Saying they have 5 bedrooms and 1,200 square feet, that's beyond my comprehension. And then you drive down these streets, and one of the things I've been looking at is some of these high density housing, like in Ball Ground, the new ones. Do you know who's living in those houses? Investors have bought those houses up, and they're renting it out by the room.
Oh, my God.
So there's like 4, 5, 6 cars crammed in a parking place. And if you go on places like Ruby.com and rental.com, you're gonna see room for rent, $1,100 a month. And so, cause my son-in-law and daughter, they were looking for a place, they're like, wow, this is only $1,200, look at this house. I'm like, look at the fine print, it says it's a room. So, that's what high-density housing gets you, and you're getting more investors, they're not taking ownership, they don't live here, they're renting it out to anybody. Ball Ground has become a bedroom community for people that are renting rooms out in some of these places. And it is what it is, I don't know how to stop it. There's covenants in place, I guarantee your old neighborhoods probably have. We lived in Orange Shoals, for instance. Our old house was bought twice afterwards by an investor, and we found out online, they were renting that house out by the room. So, not good.
There's your first job.
I mean, I would love to stop that corporate renting investments. I read on it, I think Yahoo News, like 60% of the homes in Metro Atlanta subdivisions are owned by corporate renters.
And that's keeping people from being able to afford homes. You can't afford, when they can pay cash because they're
Exactly.
huge, and they can pay cash for a house.
Owned by BlackRock or some other corporation.
They are,
Exactly.
BlackRock is still one of the, their subsidiaries are some of the largest.
While I was sitting here, I got a cold call saying, you know, we were looking at your house and we would like to, it's just a straight up cash buy if you're interested, literally while I was sitting here.
I don't know if my statistics are still correct or not, but, about a year ago or so, I was looking at it. The city of East Point, they analyzed it and they found out that 90% of the homes down there were owned by investors or whatever else. There's no home ownership for people to live in their house, it's all rental. And I don't know what, if anything, the commissioner can do about that or not, but it is absolutely amazing that people swoop in, buy a house, and, you know, it's a corporate operation, it's not buying a house anymore.
Yeah, it's very common practice, especially in Gwinnett County, that you see many multiple generations living in one home.
Yeah.
And they do that to bypass the lowering tax, which is your school tax. Now, Forsyth County caught on to that, said anybody who's lived in a house that's under 18 years old has to pay that lowering tax. But many people are cheating the system to avoid the taxes by putting in their elder's name on multiple generations. That's something that our tax commissioner as well, not the zoning commissioner, the tax commissioner needs to keep on. And also the school, when you register a student, find out that address is actually registered to the same individual who owns that house. And if they're paying, check the boxes if they're paying the taxes as well, property taxes. The community, to contribute to the community, as well as a deficit for schools and teachers. Yes, sir.
So again, just based on my experience talking to folks in office, one of the things I've noticed is there's a serious disconnect between the legislature and the county commission. They seem to be working at cross purposes. You have a legislator, you know, advocating for, one thing, and then you'll have someone from the county taking the opposite view, as though they never talk together. Could each of you talk to your plan and the candidate's plan for Bryce to actually stay in communication with each other, so that maybe you're working on our behalf instead of working at cross purposes that really don't line up?
Right.
Because, I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't talk to each other. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'll talk about that when I
Yeah,
get there. But, yeah.
so being on the local level, I've heard that we have, our current commissioners don't talk to each other to the day of their zoning meeting. They have no idea what's going on. They check their boxes, read, look at each other, behind the scenes, yeah or nay. I get the impression that our current commissioners are somehow related to someone on the bluffs or the property owners. Their best interest is to support their family interest. And also maybe fatten their pockets. That's a speculation, I don't know if that's true or not. But I'm here to represent everybody in this room. I'm not here to, on the state level, local level, I'm here to represent the county residents, the District 1. I focus on is stop what they want me to prevent. So I will do my best. If I'm in the cross hall, shake on the door, hey, have you heard this, you heard of that? But my hands are tied based on what I can do. I can always plant that birdie in their ear, but my focus is to focus on Cherokee County and the growth.
No, I hear you, but my question really was, you said, like, Gary had an idea, stipend for teachers, that's a legislative thing. What is your plan, or could you develop a plan where you talk to each other on a regular basis so that things get moving? You realize Highway 20 was supposed to be done 30 years ago? I mean, that was supposed to be done 30 years ago. Ground was supposed to break in 2019. It didn't happen. And it's like nobody talks. You know, there's no cooperation. And there's things that each of you do that impacts the other's ability to function well. And, you know, I think so anyone running for office needs to have a plan for communication.
I agree.
So things get done. And I don't usually hear, well, I've never heard that.
I agree with you on that, and I know a lot of the delays are due based off land acquisition. You know, holding out for that next dollar, or gotten lawyers involved, hoping for a future development to impede it. So I know a lot of the delays are for acquisition of property. It should have happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when growth wasn't here for the outer perimeter. It would have been more helpful. But we're here now, and all I can do is protect the citizens that are here now, take into your consideration your thoughts for all the future generations, for the police officers, the teachers, for them to have opportunity to live here. And all I can do is, I can't promise you that I'm gonna do that. If I see them across the hall, I will say, hey, have you heard about this? What are your thoughts on that? I'm not gonna dismiss it and tell you what you wanna hear. I'm not a politician. I'm here just taking baby steps to protect our community right now.
Isn't there a effort going forward within the county right now to provide affordable housing close to the cities?
I've seen that in downtown Canton, across from Cherokee High School.
But I mean, it's countywide.
It's countywide, yes.
Everybody's participating.
Everybody's
trying to
participating, that's
come up
right.
with a solution for this
But
problem.
it may not be the location you wanna be in, or out rurally, but a lot of them you see are in the city limits or adjacent to Holly Springs, Canton, Woodstock. There are some community talks with affordable housing. Now, affordable may not be affordable in your opinion. I mean, $400,000 or $500,000 is still not affordable, especially for a postage stamp lot. But they are making talks.
Thank you, Jonathan.